RuneScape. If you ask anybody what RuneScape is known for, you'll get a whole bunch of answers all across the board. They might say it's one of the biggest browser MMOs of all time, or that it's infamously grindy, or that they split the fanbase into regular and old school RuneScape. On the other hand, you might know it from the countless memes it's created, from image macros like the green-hatted gnome child to scams like free armor trimming, and even the all-time classic buying GF. But of all the things RuneScape is renowned for, the art style usually isn't mentioned. I mean, let's face it, RuneScape was ugly even at the time it released back in 2001. Here's some other games from 2001 just for comparison's sake. But over the years, largely thanks to its massive success, people have grown a little fond of its rudimentary visuals. It's not pretty, but it does have sort of a strange charm to it. Or maybe it just reminds us of the days when we were kids grinding away in this strange fantasy world. But whatever you think of this art style, it's kind of surprising that there aren't really any other games out there that look like it. That is, until now. Flyknight is a short little mashup of both RuneScape and Dark Souls. It's a brand new game jam project created by 3 devs who go by Mishi, Squareanon, and Wababoy. The latter of which is working on another game called Sorceress. If you saw my indie immersive sim roundup video last year, I actually included Sorceress as an upcoming game to look out for. And conveniently, Sorceress just ran a successful Kickstarter, meaning we'll be seeing a lot more from them in the future. I think they did this game jam as a sort of cool down project after the stress of running a Kickstarter campaign. So the Sorceress devs hit their goal and we got a bonus game out of it, which is pretty cool. But I hope they take an actual break sometime and not just burn themselves out. But getting back to Flyknight, as you can tell, the graphics are pretty true to RuneScape's style, despite the game being made in Unreal Engine. It doesn't share that much else with RuneScape, but those visuals sure are a treat, even as outdated as they are. You play as a humanoid Flyknight on a quest through some sort of cave system, fighting other bugmen and various creatures along the way. The game plays like your standard first-person Soulslike, with a couple unique twists. You've got your classic bonfire checkpoints, an Estus flask, and a stamina bar controlling all your actions. You have 3 weapons, a mason shield, a spear, and a longsword, each with their own pros and cons. Enemies also have their own strengths and weaknesses, taking more or less damage from different weapon types. But unlike most Soulslikes, enemy limbs and shields have individual health bars. You can do things like break an enemy's shield by hitting it enough, or cut off their arms to hinder their fighting style. Or you could just kick them off their ledges to their death, which you'll definitely want to do whenever the opportunity presents itself. And if you don't want to fight every last enemy, there's always the classic Souls-like tactic of trying to sprint past everything while dodging enemies along the way. For a small game jam project made in just 2 weeks, there's actually a lot going on here. The weapon and enemy variety is pretty good, the world feels large with branching paths and optional routes, and the combat is actually pretty challenging, especially when you first meet the ninja roly-poly bugmen. Compared to your slow attacks, these guys just dance circles around you. Although that does bring me to the main downside of this game. A lot of the stamina system just makes things unnecessarily clunky. You move very slowly and can easily drain your stamina in a few seconds flat from just sprinting or attacking a few times. But you're heavily penalized for having low stamina. The game slows you down even more at low stamina, and being hit can knock you down. But on the other hand, the stamina regeneration is very slow, much more so than Dark Souls and other similar titles. So if you want to play safely, most fights go like this. Block, attack once or twice, and then try not to get hit for the next 5 seconds so your stamina can regenerate. Rinse and repeat. Of course, all that goes out the window when you meet the bug ninjas I mentioned earlier. They're way faster than you, and they have unlimited stamina. You can't rely on the typical block and attack strategies because they can burn through your stamina much faster than you can fight back. So for most of these fights, I ended up using the terrain to my advantage, getting them to miss attacks here and there by standing near a slope or a rock or something. Aside from the ninjas, the last boss also makes you really feel the limitations of the stamina system. It constantly repositions itself, forcing you to use up most of your resources just to sprint around the room dodging attacks. But given that the entire game took me just about half an hour to beat, I don't feel like it really wore out its welcome. Considering this is a game jam game, I'd say everything was pretty well executed. The art style is charming, the world feels expansive, and the game is surprisingly challenging. If you want to give it a shot for yourself, I'll leave a link to play it down below. This video was really just a small side project I wanted to do in between some bigger things. I think it's fun to dig into some obscure indie games every once in a while, and given that this just came out, I decided to hop on it early for once. So that's Flyknight for you. But given that the developer is working on Sorceress, I doubt we're gonna see any more of this anytime soon. But hey, if you like the game, you could always leave a comment on their page. I'm sure they'd really appreciate the support. And if you want to see more videos like this, just let me know. I'm always open to checking out obscure indie games, I just need to hear about them first. If you ever want to make video suggestions, or just hang out and chat, I recently opened an official Discord server. Aside from your usual Discord shenanigans, we've also got a game dev channel over there where people can talk shop and devs can even show off their own projects. So if any of that sounds cool to you, stop in and say hi sometime. I'll leave a link to that down below. Anyways, that about covers everything I've got for today. But before I go, there's one more thing. As the wise man once said, buying GF is temporary, but Gnome Child is eternal. Have a good one, folks.